Good evening, and thank you for joining us for this WGXA News special report. I'm Victoria Cardenas, and this is Crime and Justice, the Future of Macon-Bibb County, a debate between the candidates for Bibb County Sheriff. Over the course of the next hour, I'll be joined by Bibb County Sheriff incumbent David Davis and Sheriff candidate JT Ricketson to debate topics considered most important by Bibb County residents ahead of the November 3rd election. Before we begin, let's give a background on our candidates. Sheriff Davis started his career with the Bibb County Sheriff's Office in 1979 and is a graduate of the FBI National Academy. He was elected as sheriff in 2012 and re-elected to serve a second term in 2016. Sheriff Davis is running on the Democratic ticket. Joseph Tyler Ricketson, also known as JT, is a graduate of Georgia College and State University and Columbus State University. Ricketson retired from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation as a special agent after almost 40 years of service. Throughout his time with the GBI, he investigated more than 50 use of force cases while also serving as training coordinator and specialized instructor. He was also a professor of criminal justice at Middle Georgia State University. Ricketson is running on the Republican ticket. With that, let's meet the candidates, Sheriff Davis and Agent Ricketson. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Before we begin, we want to explain the logistics of tonight's debate. Each candidate will receive 2 minutes to answer each question. Once we reach the 2-minute cap for each answer, I will call time. I will also alternate who answers each question first. Concerns of pay is something citizens and law enforcement alike are worried about, and we spoke with one retired corrections officer, and here are their concerns.
As a retired correction officer, we have to realize that officers, sheriffs, correction officers, they risk their lives every day. And the pay must warrant the job that they do. You know what I'm saying? They're important, you know? So we need to pay them like they're important because we need them. And that's what you do when you need people. You show that you appreciate them. You show that you appreciate the job that they do. You know what I'm saying? And one way to show that is pay. Increase the pay. It's just that simple.
And with that, let's begin in alphabetical order of last name. Sheriff Davis, we'll start with you. Right. What are your plans to encourage people to apply to the sheriff's office if pay is lower compared to other cities with similar population sizes in the state?
Well, Victoria, that is a challenging question, and that is one of the things that we've been dealing with for the last couple of years. When you look at the pay for a starting deputy at the Bibb County Sheriff's Office at being right around $35,000. That is thousands of dollars less than what surrounding agencies that are much smaller than we are starting. Even Monroe County just up the road there is starting at $40,000 a year. I'm happy to say that you know, I have been on the forefront of getting better pay and benefits for both the deputies and really all county employees and all public safety. And it all started a couple of years ago when we asked for a raise, and the commissioners weren't able to give it to us. And then I famously had a video where I tore up a letter that I had sent to the commissioners asking for that raise. That started conversations going to where at one point the commissioners gave all county employees a $1,000 bonus at Christmas time, and finally to a pay study, which I had to pay for through funds through the sheriff's office, that has come to fruition now. In fact, today, that pay study was brought before the Bibb County Board of Commission for them to look at. So we hope with that, as well as we have a sign-in bonus of up to $2,500 for new deputies coming on, that that will make us a more attractive place to work, and that we can draw people who want to first get into law enforcement, as well as people who may be in law enforcement now that are working for an agency that hopefully will make less than what we make, and we can draw some good people in. We've had some people come in the last few months. We've had some people who have left and have come back. I swore in a gentleman yesterday who had left, who had gone to Houston County but came back to Bibb County. So it is a challenge, and hopefully we'll meet it with the new pay structure.
All right, thank you for that, Sheriff. And Agent Ricketson, your response, please.
Well, we've had this problem that was actually identified over 5 years ago when they had 50 deputies that had left the department. So this is a problem that has been around for a very long time. So it's just amazing that here we are 5 years later and they've finally done something. They have been kicking this can down the road for far too long, and I think it's shameful that this is what we have here. I'm thankful now that they have raised the pay, maybe $4,000 to $6,000 where it needs to be. But when you look at Bibb County and the size of that department that they are, they should have a recruiting department. They should have a video that is set up so when you look around, if you go on the internet right now and you look at different sheriff's departments or police departments that are around the state, they have training videos, they have recruiting videos. They are going out and recruiting their deputies and their police officers out in the high schools. They're going into the colleges. They're going into the trade schools. So there's a lot of things. Just sitting back and waiting on somebody to come to you is not the answer. We need to be proactive in how we respond to this. Having a video is definitely one of the ways to get that. I think the pay, I'm glad that it's raised up. But I can tell you, after talking with deputy after deputy after deputy that had left the Bibb County Sheriff's Office, they did not leave just because of pay. They left because of the poor work conditions. They were being overworked. When you look at the overtime pay, the expenditures that they're getting into that, 4,500 hours, over $100,000 a month they're spending on this. So they're working these deputies into the ground. I've heard just within the last 3 weeks, 10 to 11 deputies and jailers have left this department. I don't understand. I think a good question to ask is when you talk about interviewing 1 or 2 people, you're an agency that is 200 deputies down. You should be interviewing 20 or 30 at a time.
All right, thank you for that answer. And as of today, there have been 39 homicides in 2020. Why do you think that number is so high, and what will you do to cut the crime rate? Agent Ricketson, let's start with your response first.
Okay, absolutely. When you look at 39 homicides this year, you look at in 2018 we had 42 homicides. The national average for what we should be expecting here in Macon-Bibb County is 7 homicides. Now 7 to me is entirely too many, but when you look at that, we are 6 times the national average. We just had another homicide yesterday. There are a number of things that we can do to improve that. We need a warrant service team. We have way too many criminals that are freely roaming our streets that have active warrants on them. Bibb County Sheriff's Office does not actively go after them. If they catch them in a traffic stop, they may do something with them. They do not have a comprehensive plan to deal with the street crimes and the gang activities that's going on here. I have a plan for that through the multi-jurisdictional task force. So there are a number of things that can be done that are proactive type of things. If you look at the Sheriff's Office and what we've seen in the last 8 years is most everything that they do is reactive. They are not proactively getting out there and making our streets safer.
All right, thank you for that. And Sheriff Davis, your response to that question as well. Why do you think the homicide number is so high, and what will you do to cut the crime rate?
Well, when you look at the homicide number, a homicide number of 7 is a little low. We've never had that few of homicides, even whenever we had the unincorporated area of Bibb County. The homicide rates normally, even through the 90s and early 2000s, was in the 20s, even some into the low 30s. But one of the things that I am most proudest of is that our officers solved the homicides. We have solved 80% of the homicides that have happened since consolidation. The homicide last night was solved within an hour after it happened. Our investigators, with the help of the public and the relationship that we have with the people out in the neighborhoods, is able to give us the information for us to make the cases on these cases, and we're able to get resolution very quickly because of our partnership, because of our deputies, who many of them grew up in this community, who know the streets, who know the people, who are out there able to get the information whenever a bad thing happens, and the people are calling us to let us know. So we have a great success rate on solving the serious crimes and then getting them into the prosecution stage and getting them moved on through. And we hope that in the next few years, these about over 60 inmates that I have in the jail that are charged with murder, some of them have been in there for over 3 years, if we can get them moved on through the system and get them on into prison, it will show that there is consequences for violent acts. We push forward with different law enforcement programs. We had one just last week. That's just one of about 7 or 8 that we've had over the last 2 years that have arrested hundreds of criminals. Last year, we arrested over 7,000 people all throughout Bibb County over the whole year doing wrong things. And we have a warrant service team, the multi-jurisdictional U.S. Marshals Fugitive Squad that serves our serious warrants, and everybody at the sheriff's office is a warrant server. And so when we see them, we make those arrests and we move forward. So that's part of that partnership with the community and the information that we get that helps us to solve the serious crimes that do happen.
All right, thank you, Sheriff. And we're going to take a quick break. When we return, we'll take some questions from Bibb County viewers. You're watching Crime and Justice, the Future of Bibb County, a special report with WGXA News. Stay with us. Welcome back to this WGXA News special report, Crime and Justice, the Future of Bibb County. I'm Victoria Cardenas. If you're just joining us, I'm joined by the candidates running for Bibb County Sheriff, incumbent, and running on the Democratic ticket, Sheriff Davis, and Republican retired Georgia Bureau of Investigation Agent JT Ricketson. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. And just a reminder, each candidate will receive 2 minutes to answer each question. We will also alternate who answers each question first. And now to a topic that's been dominating the news for months now. Police brutality. There are Black Bibb County deputies, and they're experiencing 2 national narratives, Black Lives Matter and Blue Lives Matter. Sheriff Davis, you'll respond first. What are the conversations you are having with your Black deputies?
Well, that's one of the things that I'm most proudest of at the Sheriff's Office. Our use of force complaints and the excessive use of force has trended down over the last 5 years. And I think that is partially because of the diversity that we have in our office, because our office reflects demographically the same makeup as our community. So when you have that, it's very hard for one side, for any officer to start acting disparate toward another race of individuals, because there's always going to be some diversity there to keep our eye on what's going on. And I'm very proud, and that is from training and supervision and oversight of all use of force instances in the county, that whenever a deputy uses use of force, it is sent up through our internal affairs, up through the command structure and reviewed so that we make sure that the use of force was justified and appropriate for the situation. And we've had some officers who have gone a little too far and have been sanctioned because of it. We had an officer not too long ago that had fired at a car moving away from him, and he had to be terminated and in charge. So we stay on top of that, and it's the diversity and the inclusiveness and the partnership that we have with our community that lets us know when something happens. And I ask the people, we have body cameras on our deputies, but also if they see our deputies doing something good or doing something bad, record it and let us know about it so that we can follow up on it. And so that's part of that training. That's part of being inclusive to all types of individuals. We have a racially diverse force, but we now have a gender diverse force, because about half of everybody we hire now is female, and so that's beginning the next trend in law enforcement of a gender shift.
All right, thank you, Sheriff Davis. And Agent Ricketson, what will be the conversations you will have with Black deputies if elected?
Well, one of the things that I'd like to talk about, and the push that I'm going to have, is for national accreditation. I just left an agency after 36 years with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, and we were and are a nationally accredited agency. And what that means is you raise your standards of how you respond to things like officer use of force cases. you raise that to a national standard. So I'll be talking with these deputies, both white and black and Hispanic and what other race that we have there, and talk to them about the training issues that we have there. When I worked with GBI, I investigated dozens and dozens and dozens of officer use of force cases that involve fatalities and use of deadly force. So I understand clearly what needs to be done. I understand the rule of law that is involved with working those kinds of cases. So I want to raise the level of awareness, but raise the level of training through the national accreditation push to help these deputies to respond better. Every time we worked a use of force case with the GBI, we always took things from that case and we looked at it as training issues. So we took those training components and we built in training exercises that we would give to the agents. That's the same thing that I'll be doing with the deputies at Bibb County.
All right, thank you both for sharing on that. And the COVID-19 pandemic isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Looking forward as a department, how would you provide long-term safety during a pandemic? Agent Ricketson, you're up first.
Well, we are definitely in some new times here with this pandemic. So we need, through education and through training, first we need to learn about the dangers of this disease. We need to learn about the personal protection. We need to learn about having safety, the social distancing, all those sorts of things that we need to do. But you think about with Bibb County and being just a sheriff in general, that is an inherently dangerous job. So we come in contact with a lot of different things that are dangerous. So working through this, I believe through training and through educating, but we also got to properly equip these deputies. We need to think about also the jail. The sheriff is responsible for a jail that has around 900 inmates, and they are housed in very close proximity. So that is another issue that you need to be looking at. The jailers need to be educated on that, but we need to look at the responses on how that's done, isolating somebody, identifying them. If we have to take, when we do training through GBI, we all wear a mask. Our temperature is taken at the door if we're going to be in close proximity. So there are a lot of safety measures that we have implemented just because of COVID-19, and that's the same thing that I would be bringing to Bibb County Sheriff's Office.
All right, thank you for that. And Sheriff Davis, your response, please. How would you provide long-term safety during a pandemic?
Well, as was said, we're rewriting the book on all of this. This is things that we've not ever seen in our lifetime, with equipment, with personal protective equipment, with masks, with hand sanitizer, with everything that we can think of to give our deputies and give our employees. And looking at the jail, that is a very important part of being a sheriff and running a sheriff's office. And I'm very proud to say that in our jail, this average nearly 800 inmates at any given time, plus inmates coming in, getting bonded out, passing through the system, that we've had less than a dozen total cases of COVID with the inmates within the jail, because we've had rigorous screening processes, rigorous isolation processes, and that sort of thing. Anything that we've had has been brought in from the outside to the inmates, but we've had just very, very few cases of COVID in the jail amongst the inmates. And so we're very proud about that. But it is incumbent on us to be very protective of our employees. At any time we've had a case where an employee has had COVID, we make certain we have a contract with a cleaning company that comes in and fumigates, that disinfects, that covers all of the surfaces and make sure that all of that has been rendered safe. We've done that in numerous places, whether it's in the jail, whether it's in our administrative offices, all around, to make sure that our employees are protected. And we want to continue to do that. And if there's any kind of new personal protective equipment or any type of new techniques that come available for law enforcement or deputies out on the street, we're certainly going to take advantage of those and move forward with that. So this is a learning experience for all law enforcement and all governments going forward. And so we just want to keep on resting on what we've done so far and look for new ways of protecting our people.
All right, thank you for that. And after this quick break, Sheriff Davis and Agent Ricketson will debate questions you, our viewers, have asked. Stick around for this on this special WGXA News Report, Crime and Justice, the Future of Macon-Bibb County. Welcome back to this WGXA News special report, Crime and Justice, the Future of Bibb County. I'm Victoria Cardenas. I'm joined by the candidates running for Bibb County Sheriff, incumbent and running on the Democratic ticket, Sheriff Davis, and Republican retired Georgia Bureau of Investigation Agent JT Ricketson. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us tonight. And with that, let's continue. Sheriff Davis, I want to turn the focus on the residents you're wanting to protect. We spoke with some of them to ask what is most important to them when it comes to their safety. This question comes from Calvin Smith from North Macon.
How can he do a better job? What does he have planned that would be an improvement over what's happening now?
Sheriff Davis, your response, please.
Well, thank you. That's a good question. And a lot of things that we have already begun. We started for violent crimes and that sort of thing. We started the NIBIN program, the National Integrated Ballistics Information Network, where we can track shell casings taken from one crime scene and link them to shell casings found at other crime scenes, and link same weapons to same suspects, and be able to solve crimes that ordinarily wouldn't think were related or were committed by the same suspect. Another thing that we have done is that we have installed surveillance cameras, or cameras in various locations all around town, to watch for what's happening in these neighborhoods, watch for what's happening on these streets. The next step from that is to couple a technology called ShotSpotter. That is our next move, to get the ShotSpotter, which is able to pinpoint a discharge of a firearm within just a few feet, so that we can couple that with the cameras and the ShotSpotter. The camera can come over and zero in on a person that may be shooting. Another technology that can add to that is license plate readers that can be joined in with those cameras, so that when there is suspicious activity in a neighborhood, then we can go back and look at the tags that have been run in that particular area and see if there's anything suspicious, or if there's been any stolen vehicles or anything like that. So those, one thing builds on another. I'm very happy to have the NIBIN system that we got in partnership with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms on the federal level, as well as the SightView system through Georgia Power and Cox. And then as we move forward to the other technology, that will be exciting. The other things we're looking at is just neighborhood connectivity, neighborhood watch. Our crime numbers have been trending down over the last couple of years, and that is largely because of neighbors watching out for neighbors, as well as letting us know when suspicious activity is going on.
All right, thank you, Sheriff Davis. The same question to you, Agent Ricketson. What do you have planned that would be an improvement over what's happening now?
Well, what I think is very telling, and the reason we have the violent crime rates that we have right now, and we have our deputy shortage, is everything that he just mentioned is reactive to something that has already happened. The shell casings, the cameras, the tag readers, every bit of that is after the crime has already occurred. Folks, we need to be getting out in front of these crimes. We need to quit being reactive, and we need to be proactive. I have plans to be proactive in our neighborhoods, in the communities that we will be protecting. I have a plan for the warrant service team to be getting these fugitives that are on our streets right now, freely roaming around. I have a multi-jurisdictional task force that I want to put in place that will focus on the street crimes and the gang activities that's going on here. The other thing that he talked about was the neighborhood watch. I can tell you, in my campaign right now, going around in Bibb County, I have spoken with a number of neighborhood watch leaders. And one thing I found that was common is not one of them are coordinating or talking to another one. He says he has a neighborhood watch program. Well, you know what? He's going and talking to this neighborhood for 10 minutes, this neighborhood for 10 minutes. That is not the way we do this. The way we do this is we get out in front, we be proactive. There are a number of other initiatives that I want to do, and one of them is actually going into the most crime-riddled area, take a dilapidated house, remodel it, and then I'm going to move deputies inside that house. So we're not just walking around in a neighborhood locking arms with good people for a photo op. We're going to actually live in the communities that we serve. And I'll start with one house, and I plan to build that to 5 to 7 houses by the end of my first term.
All right, thank you, gentlemen, for that. Now, this next question is from a resident who lives in Southwest Macon, where in recent months has seen an uptick in violent crimes.
What would he do if he got elected as far as the gang violence goes? That's strong in this Macon community. So I really want to know from him what he thinks is a good idea to start to get this gang violence under control.
Mr. Ricketson, your response, please, to the gang violence in Macon.
So I've already mentioned about this task force idea that I want to do. But what I haven't talked about is in my career with GBI, I supervised 3 different task forces. One was in Carrollton, Georgia, one in Milledgeville, and one in Eastman. They covered anywhere from 4 to 6 to 10 counties. That is a force multiplier where we combine our resources, we work with our local law enforcement in our surrounding areas. Criminals do not recognize city limits. They don't recognize county boundaries. They recognize a place where there is no law enforcement. So they operate freely here because there is a lack of law enforcement. So that multi-jurisdictional task force, I've got experience with that. I know it works. I know it's effective. But there's a whole nother component to this task force, which is called the intelligence unit. So we work smarter and we work harder. When we start working a case and we get a gang member or we get a drug dealer off the street, there is no honor among thieves. And so I can tell you, when we get one of them, they're going to be talking about their friends, their associates. We're going to be writing that stuff down, putting it in a database, and that way we will be working harder and smarter to clean up our streets and make them safer.
All right, Sheriff Davis, your response, please, to the gang violence in Macon.
Well, it is here. We do a good job of solving the homicides, 80% solve rate, because of the connectivity that we have with the community. We have the underlying issues that you have, and that is a socioeconomic issue that we have where you have the blighted conditions. I've always said the blighted conditions create blighted minds, which result in blighted actions, and that's a partnership and a united effort from various organizations and various government entities and community entities to address some of the underlying issues of disparity in jobs, disparity in education, blighted conditions, all of those things. I have inmate work crews that are out cutting lots all the time in some of these blighted conditions so that we can see what's going on, so that we can see the drug dealers, so that we can see the vagrants lurking around in some of these lots that have before been overgrown. The work of our gang unit, our intelligence unit, coupled with the technology that we had, has really helped us solve a lot of crimes, has helped us to prevent some crimes. When we have intel that some gang members are going out to do a drive-by or go out and do an attack, our gang units have gone in and interceded and stopped those things from happening. And so we work multi-jurisdictionally with our federal partners and with other local agencies whenever we have special operations. But we have to remember that whenever we're in a task force, those deputies that are assigned to that task force are sometimes out of our jurisdiction a lot, so they're not able to do as much stuff here locally as what we have them here that are dedicated to our local streets to make a difference here locally.
All right, thank you both, gentlemen. Now to questions viewers wanted to ask you from social media. This question pertains to the homeless population. They ask, what do you plan to have to decrease the amount of those in Macon who are without homes and left on the streets? Sheriff Davis, your response first, please.
Yeah, the homeless issue is very vexing, and it's one that I've been in several meetings with community partners as well as governmental partners to discuss strategies and things like that. The courts have said you can't really just tell a homeless person to leave. That is really not a humane way to handle it. But even under the law, if they are in a public place, we cannot tell them to just go unless we have a place for them to go to. That is the next step, and that's conversations that we're having on the government level as well as in the private foundation level to get a place that is designated for the homeless here in Macon-Bibb, so that the services, so that those job services, those feeding services, clothing services, and all of that can be useful in that one area, and that way we have a place that homeless people can go and get help. We don't want to look like we are not humane and care about our fellow human being, but we do need to take steps to address that. Something even on the smallest level that we've gotten grant money from some of the foundations to buy bus tickets for some of the homeless. We just sent a gentleman to New York yesterday that was needing to go back home, and we've had that all over, have sent people all over that have been here stranded and who want to leave.
All right, thank you for that. Mr. Ricketson, your response, please.
Well, first off, the way I look at a problem, if you really want to get in there, you got to roll your sleeves up and get right in the middle of it. For 3.5 years, my wife and I actually fed the homeless every Sunday, rain or shine, holiday or no holiday. We did this with a group of other couples where we were feeding anywhere from 75 to 125 homeless folks. During that 3.5 years, we learned an awful lot about that community that we have here. We went into it with certain very naive assumptions and really some thoughts that we thought, hey, we're going to try to help these folks out. What I can tell you after doing this for 3.5 years is there are a lot of people that have mental illnesses, and they're in that position because of that mental illness that they have. When you look at other folks, they are in that because that is their choice, this is what they want, and they are not looking to move forward out of that situation. What I can tell you about Macon-Bibb County is we have a tremendous heart here. We care about our people. We care about our community. You can find someone that feeds, clothes, houses, or even washes the clothes of homeless folks just about any day of the week, Monday through Sunday. That's the other thing that I learned about this. Now, when you look at the law, unless they violate the law, law enforcement, in my role as a sheriff, I would not be able to do anything with them. But I can tell you there are ordinances on the books for the begging and the panhandling. We can keep them and get them off our streets when you're trying to go in and out of restaurants or stores or exiting off of our interstate. We can deal with that. Here's another option that we have through the criminal justice system is a thing called banishment. If we have somebody that has been a nuisance here for far too long, we can go to our district attorney and say we need to have this person banished, and then that way we actually have a court order so they will not return.
All right, thank you, Agent Ricketson. Now the next question is from another one of our viewers. They ask, what are your plans on utilizing supplemental assistance by social workers to alleviate the burden on deputies? Agent Ricketson, your response, please.
Well, first off, our job in law enforcement is inherently dangerous. So I cannot put a social worker in a deputy's car and expect them to ride around, because any given moment when that deputy is out there on patrol, they may need to get in a car chase or respond with blue lights and siren to an incident. So what I would like to do is incorporate them after we are working on a case, after we've made the scene safe. I think we could have a role there. When I look at the cases here and we see things like the trauma that happens when we have homicides and you have all these victims, the mother, the father, the children. So we actually enlist our clergy. We like to get reverends, ministers, preachers, pastors, whatever, to come out with us. I am a big proponent of that. I try to talk to, when I was working with the agents, I told them we need to have empathy. I know we're there just trying to get the facts, but we need to be careful in how we deal with this. These people are just dealing with a very significant emotional event. I think there is a place for social workers, but we have an inherently dangerous job, and I cannot put them on the front line. I can't put them with just a mesh vest riding around in a patrol car. They don't have the training, they don't have the equipment, they don't have a bulletproof vest. I could be putting them in harm's way and creating a bigger hazard or bigger danger, so I would not do that. But I do think that they have a role after we make the scene safe.
All right, thank you for that. And Sheriff Davis, the same question to you. What are you planning on utilizing supplemental assistance of social workers to alleviate the burden of deputies?
Well, that's one of the things that we have seen so many duties that have been shifted off to law enforcement. We talked a minute ago about the homeless problem with the mentally ill. That's something that sheriffs know very well about. The best mental health treatment facilities in the state of Georgia are all your county jails. So when you look at that and you look at the other things like domestic situations. We need to have those resources. Certainly you don't want to have a squad of social workers working through the sheriff's office that would go out and answer calls. By the time the sheriff's car is called, or by the time the deputy is called, it's a little bit late for that. We can do some follow-on things, but we need to have more programs on the social level, more outreach and more programs that people can call and get help when they see themselves in a bad domestic situation. Places like Crisis Line and Safe House does an excellent job, but they can tell you themselves they're overworked and understaffed. And so if we have more facilities, more agencies like that that can hopefully intercede before it resorts to violence and moves into something where the sheriff has to get called. And then we have clergy involved. Our Concord project that we started a couple of months ago has clergy going out. They do ride with the deputies some, or they will be riding with the deputies some, but then they have taken it on themselves to go out and interact with some of these crime victims' families and do those things. And they have had a complete eye-opening experience as to what some of the conditions are here locally. And so that has really helped us bond with the community and has really helped us to put a service out there that I think is worthwhile and useful.
All right, thank you, gentlemen, for those answers. Let's take a quick break. When we continue, Sheriff Davis and Agent Ricketson will answer more of your questions. You're watching a WGXA News Special Report. Welcome back to this WGXA News Special Report, Crime and Justice, the Future of Bibb County. Sheriff Davis and Agent Ricketson are joining us tonight, and these are the final questions for both candidates. What are your plans of working with the local media when at a time there is distrust with the media? We will begin with Agent Ricketson.
Well, one thing I can say after being a command level agent with GBI for the last 22 years of my career, I did a lot of media press releases. And over time, we actually started out where we would just say, GBI, we've got this under investigation, no further comment. And that actually evolved over time, and we are very transparent with GBI. I'll be the same way as your Bibb County Sheriff. I believe that the public has a right to know about what is going on and what just happened in their community. So I can look at things, I can look at a case and make a press release and tell things about the case that does not compromise the integrity of that criminal investigation, but it lets the folks know that are in that community. Here's the other thing. I like using the media. I think the media are great. They're a huge voice out there that helps us get the word out. If we have a missing child, if we have an elder person that has Alzheimer's and they walked off, the media is fantastic getting that word out. So I embrace the media every time I work with them. I welcome them in. I share my phone number with them. They've called me at all hours of the night. So I am very accessible. I was that way as a command level GBI supervisor, but I'm the same. I'd be the same way as your Bibb County Sheriff. I am accessible to the public, but I'm also accessible to the media. I will share with them what I'm allowed to share as long as I don't compromise that investigation.
All right, thank you for that response. And Sheriff Davis, the same question to you.
Well, I think we have a proven track record at the Bibb County Sheriff's Office of being open and accommodating to the media as well as anybody else that wants to know what we're doing at the Sheriff's Office. I came up through the ranks at the Sheriff's Office through my years of service, and part of those years of service was as a public information officer for several years at the Sheriff's Office. So I learned the rules and the techniques of dealing with the media and establish those relationships with the media, and that carries on to this day. And I'm probably one of the most accessible public figures that we have in our community. I'm always there. My number, I don't mind giving it out to anybody. And so we're going to be open and transparent with the media or anybody else. And we have a very strong social media presence as well. And so transparency and letting people know what you're doing at your agency is very important, and that helps build that relationship that we have with the public that we serve. So we will certainly be open and transparent and keep that strong relationship that we have with all of our media partners going forward, as well as just general members of the community.
All right, thank you for that. And now we have a question in from one of our viewers, Melanie Talkington. What is your plan to bring the number of African American sheriff's deputies in line with the Macon-Bibb population demographic, which is over 60%? Will you promise to make this a priority? I know this is something we touched on earlier. Sheriff Davis, if you can respond first.
Yes, the demographics of our agency already reflect the racial background of our community. I think it's about a 55, 56, 45, 43% breakdown to black to white in our agency. So that is one thing that I'm very proud of, that our agency reflects the demographic background of our community, and we want to make sure that we strive to do that. And one of the things that I am proud to say, that the applicants that we have coming to work for us, we have African American applicants, we have white applicants, so it covers the spectrum, so it doesn't seem like that one group or another does not want to come to work for us. And another trend that is going forward is the trend of gender. Over the next few years, I read a story that probably in the next 20 to 30 years, more than half of the people in law enforcement will be female. And that's how it's trending now. Probably about half of the people that we hire at the sheriff's office now are female. So that gender shift is the next great shift you're going to see in law enforcement going forward. And I'm very proud of our diversity, both gender-wise as well as racial.
All right, thank you, Sheriff Davis. Agent Ricketson, the same question to you. What is your plan to bring the number of African American sheriff deputies in line with the Macon-Bibb population? And will you promise to make this a priority?
Okay, well, as the sheriff already answered, I don't know the breakdown right now because I'm not inside there. But what I can tell you, if I take over as sheriff, I'm going to look at our population. I'm going to look at the makeup of the Bibb County Sheriff's Office, and I'm going to make sure that we have a true representation of who we are there to serve and to protect. So that will not be a question with me. There'll be no issues there. We will make sure that there's equity in the way we hire. We will not be lowering our standard. Matter of fact, I want to raise the standards through the national accreditation. So there are a number of things that I would like to do, but absolutely, I believe that we should reflect the community that we are hired to serve.
All right, thank you both for answering that question. And Mayor-elect Lester Miller is set to take office in January. Have you talked public safety with him since he won the election? Agent Ricketson, you're up first.
Well, you know what I think is very interesting, the mayor and several candidates that were running for the county commission, they were all, one of the first things they mentioned was public safety. So I know it's on their minds. And yes, I have met with 2 newly elected county commissioners. I've met with 2 that are already in office, that have been in office. And I have met with Lester on a couple of occasions. And I've told them some of the plans that I have, some of the things that I want to do. And what I want to do is just make our streets safer. It is not about locking up a lot of people and things like that. It is about making our streets safe. When you look at our community, we have such a great diversity of people, of cultures. We have music, we have literature, we have sports. We have so many things that we could be celebrating here, but right now we aren't celebrating anything because we are so focused. We've had 42 homicides a couple of years ago. We're now at 39 or 40 for this year, and it's still climbing. We've got months left. We're actually set to set a modern day dangerous record, which will make us one of the most dangerous communities in this country. Last year, I know they're talking about, hey, our crime trends have been going down. Well, in 2019, did you know we had 139 people that were shot? You have a 9.6% chance of being shot here. You could go one county down in Houston County and it's like 1.2. So what are they doing differently that we aren't doing here? Well, I can tell you one of them is law enforcement. When you do law enforcement, you either do 2 things or the results. You either lock the bad guys up, the predators that are out on our streets focusing on us for victims or targeting our children or grandchildren for their next, to go into their criminal enterprise, you either lock them up or you run them off.
All right, thank you, Agent Ricketson. Sheriff Davis, the same question to you. Have you spoken with Mayor-elect Lester Miller about public safety since he won the election?
Yes, I have, and I've spoken to him as well as some of the other commissioners who have been elected and some of the commissioners who will be on the board next year. And so they have talked to me about some of their ideas of public safety, and I want to make every effort that I can to help them with some of their plans, and they want to help me with some of the things I want to do, with some of the things we've talked about with the technology and some of the things that we want to do in outreach. And so that's part of what we want to do, working together to form a great relationship with the new mayor and the new commissioners. And so we want to work forward and work together to solve some of these underlying problems when you have the blighted issues. And we talk about the comparison of Macon to Warner Robins. Well, and that is a perfect example of the economic situation. The median income of the people in Macon, Georgia is about $39,000. The median income of the people in Houston County is about $58,000. It's about a $20,000 disparity in median income from one county to the next. And with that, median income has jobs, has the difference in the educational and job disparities, and those are some of the underlying issues that cause some of the criminal acts that we are having to deal with. And I know that Mayor-elect Miller and the commissioners coming in are devoted to work on some of those economic issues, bring development in here to get jobs, to look for education. Mayor-elect Miller has a background in education, having served on the school board, so he knows how to bring those type changes in to affect some of the underlying issues that affect some of the crime issues that we're dealing with.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. And we've reached the end of the hour, but before we conclude the debate, I want to give you each 2 minutes to share your final thoughts with voters before they cast their ballots. Sheriff Davis, please begin.
All right, well, I'm Sheriff David Davis, running for another term as your sheriff. I have over 40 years experience. This is my second term, asking for a third term. During my time as your sheriff, we have done some tremendous things. We have bonded with people all over our community to do outreach efforts. We have arrested criminals, thousands of criminals that we have taken off the streets. We have initiated technology programs. We've initiated our outreach programs, one of which will be our Outreach and Restorative Justice Center that is coming online later on this year. And so it's that partnership with the community that we want to continue on and build upon and do more greater things for our people that live here. And is that at Bond, I have a proven track record. I have been in this community, born and raised in this community, went to school here, and worked here at the sheriff's office throughout my career. There's not a job at the sheriff's office that I have either not done or supervised, from the jail through patrol, through investigation, through special operations. So I know the intricacies and I know the ways that a sheriff's office works to make it work and make it do the right things, what it needs to do for our community. So I ask everybody to please continue where we're going and re-elect me, David Davis, as your sheriff here on November the 3rd. And thank you.
All right, thank you, Sheriff Davis. Agent Ricketson.
My name is JT Ricketson, and I am running for Bibb County Sheriff. Folks, we have some very serious problems going on in our community. We have a violent crime rate that is averaging 6 times our national average. We have a deputy shortage that is probably the worst in the nation. You have a very, very clear choice on November 3rd to choose your next sheriff. I have the training, the education, the 36 years of state-level law enforcement experience that I can bring to this county right here to try to make our streets safer. The choice to you is very clear. We can stay with the status quo. We've got 8 years with this guy. We've already seen what's happened here. The highest crime rates, one of the highest in the nation, a deputy shortage that is continuing to worsen. Or you can go with me. I've got a 36-year good career with state-level Georgia Bureau of Investigation. So early voting started yesterday. And so you can actually go out and vote starting now. And the general election is on November the 3rd. So the choice to me and for you should be very clear. I am a proactive law enforcement. I am not reactive. I have a lot of plans that I can put in place here. We do things that I say have substance to it. When we look at the community programs that I want to do, what I mentioned earlier about rehabbing a house and moving deputies into it, that is a whole different way of looking at community policing. So I have just tons and tons of ideas that are bouncing around in my head that I'm ready to get started and go to work. It is in my DNA to run towards problems. That's why I retired from GBI. I did not have to do that, but I did that specifically so I could run to be your next sheriff. Thank you.
All right, thank you both gentlemen. And with that, I again want to thank the candidates, incumbent and Democratic candidate Sheriff David Davis and Republican candidate Agent JT Ricketson. To all of you at home, thank you for joining us for this WGXA News special report. Remember, early voting is going on right now. The general election is on November 3rd. And for all of your election information, you can visit our website, WGXA.tv. That's where we have all the information of where you can find your polling location and how to find out who's in your ballot in your area. We have links to all of that. Again, that website is WGXA.tv. And if you would like to revisit this conversation with both of the candidates that we have today, again, that will be posted on our Facebook at WGXA.tv and our website as well. This has been Crime and Justice, the Future of Macon-Bibb County. I'm Victoria Cardenas. Good night, everyone.